Kung Fu Panda 4 is now out playing in theaters. The first Kung Fu Panda came out when I was 9 years old, and the last one came out when I was 17, so I definitely did grow up with this franchise. And with that, there is some nostalgia that comes with revisiting these characters and this world, so I did have some excitement going into Kung Fu Panda 4, but also knowing what can happen when you tack on a fourth entry to a great trilogy, there was also some hesitation. So in Kung Fu Panda 4, Po is tasked with finding a new dragon warrior to pass the mantle down to, while also dealing with a new threat to the valley, a shape-shifting deceiver known as the Chameleon. So sticking with the positives, there's a lot in Kung Fu Panda 4 that carries over from the trilogy. Jack Black is still excellent as Po. Po is a character that could easily get annoying and become a bit of a buffoon, but Jack Black has always been able to bring such a likability to him, and the writing has always been able to handle that balance of Po being a slapsticky character, but also not coming across as incompetent, which is very important when you're dealing with a character called the Dragon Warrior. And in Kung Fu Panda 4, they strike that balance once again perfectly. Po is still so lovable, so enjoyable. Jack Black is still so much fun as the character, but when it has to go down, when the action needs to kick in and he needs to step up, he is still the most skilled in the room, and they're able to make every character feel as they felt to the rest of the trilogy, and the whole movie just kind of has this feeling of comfort and familiarity to the rest of the franchise. One thing missing, or should I say 5 things missing, are the Furious 5, because Po does not have his companions here. They have been replaced by Awkwafina as this new Fox character named Zen. And I actually really liked the chemistry and the dynamic between Po and Zen, Awkwafina and Jack Black. When you're going into a fourth entry off of a great trilogy, it can be difficult to keep growing and developing the characters. And what I liked about Kung Fu Panda 4 is it takes Po and it develops him even more by taking him out of his element of the Valley of Peace, where he is adored and respected as the Dragon Warrior. And you get him mixed up in Zen's world of thievery and villainy. And the name Dragon Warrior means nothing to these people. It gives Po another underdog type story where he has to prove himself. But in this movie, it's like Po's the country boy who left to go to the big city. He is so out of his element. And it's great to see them take Po into a new setting, not just do the same type of stuff they did in the original trilogy. Try to do something actually new and fresh. Another consistency of this trilogy for me has always been the villains. The villains of Kung Fu Panda have always been awesome in their designs and in their characters. And Viola Davis as the Chameleon this time around definitely continues that trend for me. I thought this villain was great. The design of her shape-shifting was so inventive. It looked great visually on screen. The animation was gorgeous. And Viola Davis voicing the character, she makes her feel like a real sinister presence. I will say though, the Chameleon is probably the most generic and kind of cliche villain that the Kung Fu Panda movies have ever had, which kind of goes into a lot of problems that Kung Fu Panda 4 has. It can't live up to the trilogy for me. A big reason for that, and as silly as it sounds, the Kung Fu Panda trilogy is kind of grandiose in its storytelling. Especially once it got to installments 2 and 3, it became clear that they had a plan of what they wanted to do with exploring Po and his lineage and legacy as the Dragon Warrior. Each movie was kind of a step forward in his spiritual journey to becoming this Kung Fu master. And in Kung Fu Panda 4, he's now the Kung Fu master. The student has become the teacher. And the Kung Fu Panda 4 just doesn't really feel like it has that next natural step in Po's spiritual journey. It also doesn't help that everything in Kung Fu Panda 4 is smaller than in the original trilogy. The cast is smaller, obviously eliminating Furious 5. And Master Shifu's in here for maybe 3 minutes. You do have Po's dads returning in this film. They get a fun little side quest as they go to try and save Po, and their dynamic is fun to see how it's changed and grown since we last saw them in Kung Fu Panda 3. They were some of the funnier moments in the movie for sure. But not only is the cast smaller, the story feels like it's told on a much smaller scale. The objective is much smaller, mostly just getting from point A to point B to take down the Chameleon. And even the action sequences in Kung Fu Panda 4, while they are good and they're well animated and they're entertaining and fun to watch, they still feel smaller than what the previous films had to offer. And in that way, while the trilogy of Kung Fu Panda kind of feels like the filmmakers had a plan and a goal and an objective of where they wanted to go by the end of film 3, Kung Fu Panda 4 very much feels like the filmmakers getting together and going, let's do another Kung Fu Panda movie, because why not? They make money. And that's to say that I just didn't really feel the same heart and the same purpose was in Kung Fu Panda 4 that they had in the Kung Fu Panda trilogy. In fact, most of the time, this movie feels like a backdoor pilot to a new Paramount Plus show, or maybe even creating some spin-offs. Which is honestly a little disappointing because all of the pieces from the trilogy are there. The characters are still likable. The action is still fun. The world is still endearing. Po is still very charming. Yet the story that they've come up with and the execution of it all, it just feels like this franchise took a step back rather than a step forward with the fourth entry. And it does kind of make this fourth entry feel like a nice treat, but not a necessity to the rest of the trilogy. If I ever go back and watch the trilogy and finish at Kung Fu Panda 3, now that I've seen Kung Fu Panda 4, I don't really feel like I'm going to have the desire to continue in the franchise. But like I said, this is an enjoyable movie. It's completely fine. I had a nice time watching it. There were a couple gags and jokes that did get chuckles out of me. The characters are very likable and endearing. And while this is mostly aimed at kids, I'm not going to be too harsh on this film. It's totally harmless for kids. It's a solid recommend for kids. But if you're 25 or in your 20s like me, and you grew up with the Kung Fu Panda movies, and you thought that the Kung Fu Panda trilogy, well, perfectly suitable for children, were elevated just a little bit more that adults could like them too, I don't think you're going to find that here in Kung Fu Panda 4. I didn't find that in Kung Fu Panda 4. I found Kung Fu Panda 4 to be very much the fun, the charm, but without the depth. For that reason, for people like you and for people like me, a little bit older, a little bit further along in their double digits of age, I'm going to give Kung Fu Panda 4 a weak recommend. It's not a must-see for you, but if you want to have the nostalgic kick of going back into the Kung Fu Panda world, it's completely harmless and it's a good enough time. Anyway, guys, those are all my thoughts and opinions on Kung Fu Panda 4. What did you guys think of Kung Fu Panda 4? Have you bothered checking it out? Do you want to check it out or not interested? Comment down below. Let me know all your thoughts and opinions about that, guys. And if you're new here and you haven't heard, we have a goal on this channel. We want to hit 4,000 subscribers. If you like talking about Kung Fu Panda, animated films, movies in general, we do that all the time on this channel. Consider hitting that subscribe button before you make your way out. And Kung Fu Panda 4 is not the only movie I reviewed this weekend. I also reviewed Ricky Stenicki and Damsel playing on Netflix. You can check those reviews out next. As always, guys, thank you so much for hearing me out, and I hope to talk to you guys again real soon.